You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick in association with Wexford Insurances. Challenge us at Wexford Insurances 0818 31 30 30.
My first guest this morning is Ian Mernagh, Regional Manager of Bank of Ireland. Ian, you might start by telling me a bit about your own background, please.
Thank you, Karl. Yes, firstly, I suppose I'd like to say I'm from just outside Wexford town, from a farming background, and I suppose I did ag science in UCD and went on from there. I spent about a year at home on the farm, learned a lot, but I think there was too many mouths to feed, so that was short-lived. And I went from there into agricultural consultancy for 2 years before joining Bank of Ireland Finance on the agricultural side of things, financing tractors, combines, all of that type. And then I went from there into more mainstream leasing and finance. After a spell in Dublin doing business development in that area, I went into mainstream banking, into business banking, and I spent I think it was another 5 years in Dublin doing that. We opened up a new branch in Sandyford, which was a good experience. And then, as fortune would have it, in 2006, I got the opportunity to come back down to Wexford. I took that opportunity, and I suppose today I'm Regional Business Manager, as you said, of South Leinster, which is 4 counties.
Enterprise Week, you've just come out of it. Tell me a bit about it.
Yeah, we've just run our 7th successful Enterprise Week, and I suppose the whole idea of Enterprise Week is to provide a tangible support to small businesses across the country and across Wexford. And that we provide that in 2 strands, and I suppose the first part is to show your business, and many people will have seen this at this stage in our Bank of Ireland branches. So what we do is we invite businesses to come in to trade and sell their wares in our branches. And if you take, for example, a branch like Wexford, like we have thousands of people coming in on a weekly basis. Businesses that come in get access to that footfall, to new customers, and it, as I said, provides very successful. And it can be businesses from beauty products to soccer camps to handcrafted dolls, for example. We get charities in. I suppose the second part of it then is we run a series of events to support business. And for example, this year we had Richie Boucher only yesterday morning in Carlow. We had an exporters event in Wexford last Wednesday morning. We did some mentoring out in the enterprise board. We got 20 businesses, etc., and maybe startups, and went through what a business application looks like. And later in the month we've got the 3rd of December, we've got in Quinsmart and Carnew, we have an agri event where we hope we'll get about 150 farmers in, again to talk about access to finance, what lending looks like, and maybe just give a macro view of agriculture. So look, it's about getting a series of events, it's about getting people networking, and I know it's something you're passionate about yourself, Karl, but it just gives people the opportunity to get out from their offices, workplace, and meet like-minded people.
There seems to be a trend happening across the banking sector that your competitors are closing branches right across the country. Can we see this move happening within Bank of Ireland in the future?
No, Karl. I mean, look, we've got 7 branches in Wexford, and the Bank of Ireland is committed to having 7 branches in Wexford going forward. And even if you look outside the borders, I mean, Tinnahealy branch is an example that I think 2 years ago was knocked down by some thugs, and I suppose that place has been rebuilt now. It's a state-of-the-art building, and indeed we are investing continually in our branches at the moment, and you'll see it in Wexford and the other branches across Wexford, where we're investing in new technology to make it easier for people to, whether it's to lodge or to pay bills, all that side of it, because like any business, we have to keep reinvesting, and certainly the branch network is where we do our business and meet our customers, and it's something that we're very much committed to.
I have noticed myself that you certainly seem to be embracing technology, and there seems to be an awful lot more automation coming into your branches. Are we looking at, in the future, unmanned branches across the country?
No, I think that's not the idea of it at all. I think the idea of it is, like, people come in to our branch to pay bills, to do a lot of different things that they can do. And if you look at our lodgement machines, if you look at our new app that's on smartphones now, and I mean, look, I can tell you myself, I was at home sitting on the couch last night, a bill came in and I was able to register the beneficiary and pay the bill in the space of 3 minutes, and that certainly beats coming into a branch, queuing for 5 minutes, to pay a bill, whether it's monthly or whatever. So we look at ways of continually trying to add value, because I can tell you we've done more face-to-face meetings with customers on what their financial needs are over the last few months since these new changes have been introduced, and that's the whole idea, that we can have more valuable time to I suppose, add value to what a customer's needs are.
Bank of Ireland recently raised over €1 billion on the markets. I suppose two questions in relation to that. Number one, what are you going to do with that €1 billion? And secondly, what impact is it going to have on SME business owners across the country?
Yeah, I think, Karl, just first to say, Bank of Ireland raised $1 billion last week on the markets, and I think that's a key indication of the confidence that's coming back, outside of Ireland, in Ireland Inc. And the fact that we raised $1 billion, whilst the person on the ground mightn't be seeing the benefit of that, I think the fact that Bank of Ireland did it, the ESB did it, and the government bonds, etc., are coming down, that all means that, I suppose, the macro piece in Ireland is fixing itself, and the finances of government, etc., will improve. And I think when that is done, the man on the ground, it's all about confidence. And the only way I feel that we're going to get confidence back into the market is when the macro piece is sorted out, when budgets, and we have a looming budget coming, that people are genuinely scared of and don't know what's going to happen. And once that uncertainty goes out of Ireland, well then I think people will start to spend money, we'll see employment coming back, etc., etc. So I have to say it's very good news for our customers and for Ireland, and indeed for Bank of Ireland. I think the question of what we're going to do with the money is obvious. Like, we are a bank, in order to survive, we have to lend money out to our customers, and that money is used to, again, to lend to customers in Ireland for which we have no restrictions on capital.
While on the topic of lending, Ian, the large business organisations out there such as IBEC, the Small Firms Association and Chambers Ireland are still very, very critical of all banks in relation to your lending policies. What have you to say in response to that?
Look, Karl, I think I can see where the critics are coming from, and I suppose to start by saying that back in the heyday there was 13 credit institutions in Ireland that were lending. We're now more or less down to 3, and so for customers that are in those 13 or other institutions, like, obviously there's no appetite for those banks to lend. They've either deserted Ireland, or else they're closed for lending. So I suppose I can only talk about Bank of Ireland thereafter. Bank of Ireland, currently we're approving 82% of applications that are coming through. We've on average, we meet about 2,000 customers a week. We have just under about 1,000 applications, for which, as I said, 82% of those are being approved. We can look at ISME figures where they're saying 50%. We can look at CSO figures that mentioned 55% last year on first-time applications were being approved, and that went up to 73% where extra conditions were included. And I think that will continue to be debated. But I think while it's being debated, there are customers out there and businesses that require lending. And I suppose my ask would be to people: do not listen to media or negative media, but to come into us if you have a lending proposition and talk to us about it. Or even if you're thinking of borrowing, come in and talk to us. And I think you'll see that we are interested, and we do want to lend to business.
Are those figures not skewed by the fact that in most cases business owners are afraid to go in and put an official application in because they're being told upon the first conversation they're having with their bank official that it's not something that's going to be granted? And secondly, are the figures not skewed because of the conditions being attached to those that are being approved?
I think the second part of it, I mean, in the approvals, it's where there's extra conditions attached, like that is still included. But I think the piece about people not coming in or coming in and being told at the front desk that it's not going to work for you. Like, I spend a lot of time, as you know, Karl, going around to chambers, to IFA, to different talks, and I always advocate that people send in an application in writing to the bank. At that stage, the bank has to consider it. They have to write back to you to tell you why, the reasons why, if it was declined, why it was declined, and also the process thereafter. And if a person feels that the decision has been incorrect, and oftentimes, it's not an exact science lending. I'd like to think that we get most of our decisions right, but there is times that we don't, and that might be because a key piece of information was not provided, or else we didn't pick up on that key piece of information. So I would say to people that if they believe in lending, that their loan should be approved, and it's declined, to come back in and appeal it. And again, after that, if it's declined, they can go to the credit review office. And there's very little traffic going in there, and certainly it's something that will not, I suppose, inhibit your future credit decisions. And so look, I think it's key that people get that message, that they do send in their applications in writing.
As a banker, you have great visibility into the market across all sectors in relation to how different businesses are performing. From your experience, what's performing well out there today?
I think, look, we touched on it earlier as regards the exporting sector. And if you look at exporting, I think in 2006 there was about 12.5 billion of Irish indigenous exports abroad, so Irish companies, excluding multinationals, etc. And that's now up at 16 billion. So obviously, exports have never been as high from Irish indigenous companies. And I think a surprising statistic there is that 50%, when we think of exporting, we think of businesses that are, you have to have a product in your hand that you can export. 50% of exports are now service driven, so whether it's IT or whatever. So exporting is one that's doing well. Obviously the agricultural sector, there's a lot of talk about it's doing well. 2015 is coming, farmers are gearing up for that, and obviously harvest 2020. Outside of that, there's an awful lot going on in primary care, nursing homes, etc. And I suppose I wouldn't like to exclude any industry. I know, look, currently obviously development of houses, all that thing is very quiet. And it's not something that there's great appetite for. But after that, any other business I'm seeing, there are individual businesses in it that are doing extremely well. And I think, our listeners will be surprised. The cake has got smaller in a lot of different sectors, but definitely there are businesses that are getting a bigger slice of it through their management and through their proactiveness in going out there and grabbing business. So
what you're saying is that it doesn't matter what the sector is, there's still businesses at the top of each of those sectors still performing very well. You touched on the reasons why, being management ability and probably bandwidth, and secondly their proactivity. Tell me more about that.
Look, I think we've come through a torrid time in Ireland, and if you look at businesses over the last 3 or 4 years, they've been cutting their costs and cutting their costs and cutting their costs, and they've had to make very difficult decisions about letting some loyal staff go and all of those different things. I don't need to go into it, but I suppose we've kind of lost a bit, or businesses have. I suppose they've got to a level where their costs are now managed and they're either at break even or they're making a few quid, and businesses are now starting to concentrate on the top line, on sales, and they're going out there, they're networking. And I think this year in Enterprise Week, this year, including last May, I've never seen as many people stay around for coffee and whatever it is afterwards to try and network, giving out their business cards, questioning, why aren't you doing business with me? So people that are doing well, I'd have to say, are going out there looking for business. And I think people are tired overall. It's been a tough few years, and I think the likes of our networking events that both are run through Chamber, through Bank of Ireland, or whatever it is, have a key role to play, just to get people out and talk with like-minded individuals and business owners. Are you finding across County Wexford that there's many new entrepreneurs entering your branches with new business ideas looking for funding? Yes, there is, and I suppose, look, as I said to you, even last Wednesday we're out at the Enterprise Board where we met 20 businesses that have good ideas. They're in incubation or whatever it is, that they're getting their product ready to go to market. And certainly we go out, we talk to them about what a business application looks like, how to go about getting lending, etc. So we are seeing them coming in, and they're either at an early stage where they're getting a product, or they have their product, they've got their customer, they have everything set up, and they just need the capital to do it. And I suppose that's what we're there for. We're there to provide that capital for customers that have either an existing viable business, or that they have a new business where they have a customer base set up, or they have a contract or whatever it is, and they just need the ability to do it through capital. So for any business owner listening to the programme this morning that would be interested in raising capital, what's the process? Look, I think key is obviously we like to break it down maybe into an ABC process. Number one is an application, and I think if you go into our bankofireland.com you'll see it. It's quite straightforward. We have an application, business plan and cash flow, and I think if you follow those 3 steps, a business plan is key. I mean, people often say to me, a business plan, like in theory, things that's fine in theory, practically it doesn't work out that way, etc. Like, people need to have a roadmap of where they want to go to. And I think, everything is set by, you have to be able to measure every part of your business. And, if you expect to get 10 good customers in the next 6 months, well, then you need to measure that too. And like, if you have that in a business plan, it obviously gives your relationship manager in the bank the confidence that, the person knows what they're doing, etc. I think the cash flow planner, you'll see it as well online, is key. And it's the one single biggest thing for failure is lack of cash at pre-revenue stage, and then after revenue stage in not managing your debtors, creditors, etc. Every business owner has different strengths, and this is a key point where I think we have to be careful around our debtors, getting our creditors paid on time, etc. So like, it's all of those different pieces. I think in the process, the first thing we look at obviously is the manager of the business, their capability, their experience in the sector that they're going into, what is the purpose of the funds, what is the rationale of the proposition. Does it make sense for the customer, and what is their unique selling point? Does it make rationale for the bank to provide it, and so on. And then obviously we need from there to look at the viability of it. So what are the income streams, what are the expenses, and obviously then from that can it pay a loan. And I think then the last thing we would look at is security. Is the loan going to be secured? How can it be secured? And I suppose, is the bank satisfied with the security being provided?
And just on the point of security, are you finding that you're looking for a lot more security today than what you would have been, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years ago in respect of applications for business loans?
I think, Karl, it was a lot easier 4 or 5 years ago because, if someone had a property, it was going up so quickly. It was very easy to secure maybe new finance on it. Nowadays, where a lot of people are in negative equity, businesses are included in that, and we have to look at alternative ways. And there's a couple of products that have come to the fore. Invoice discounting, for example, particularly when we talked about the likes of exporting businesses, etc., can be very suitable. It grows as your debtors grow, so it's very simple. But for mainstream lending, security hasn't changed. We still look at bricks and mortar security. We can look at bonds, cash, etc., etc. Personal guarantees are often a part of it, and particularly where there's a start-up new business someone has, it's in a company, and it could be quite contentious where at times I have to say where we look for a personal guarantee. But I suppose the view that we would have is that if someone is going out, we're providing funds if it's on an unsecured basis. Well, then is the director happy to put their name to it as well? And I suppose if they're not, well, then we need to ask a question, well, why not? So there's many different types of security, and I don't think it'd be fair to point out one piece, but obviously it's something that we look for as a second option.
In relation to businesses at the other end of the scale then that would have debt at this moment in time that they can't meet the repayments on, for businesses that are struggling across the county at the moment, what are you doing for them?
We took a decision back 4 or 5 years ago to divide our business into two main strands. And the first part, obviously, we have businesses that are viable, that are doing well, etc. And the second, where maybe businesses need a bit more attention and they're going through difficulties. I think the part of that, and the main reason was, it would be very hard, Karl, for myself to spend a day dealing with 3 or 4 businesses that are going through a lot of difficulty, etc., and then turn around and go out to a new business that's looking for funding. The whole concept is different, and that's, I suppose, has worked quite well from our side. Businesses that are struggling, I suppose the first thing I would say is please come in and talk to us as soon as ever as possible, and that's where the key difference, that's what matters. And we spend time, we have specialists that are experienced lenders that are spending a lot of time with these businesses to see what can they repay on their debt. We have to size the debt, and I think I even think back to an example last year where customers came in and said we need interest only, and I suppose my first question is, well, why did you need interest only? And it's become a popular ask into banks, and I suppose the key point to them was like, there's no point in putting a business on interest only until they've looked to see what they can pay, because that type of a business could have paid interest with some capital, they could have paid interest only, or indeed they mightn't have been able to afford interest. So it's key that we get behind the figures to see what a business can pay back and and still remain viable. So look, we spend a lot of time with these businesses. I have to say that I think in most cases we're at a stage where there's general acceptance, and it's been difficult between both the bank and these businesses, that it's in everyone's interest to keep them going, that the best people to run these businesses in most instances is the business owner, and it's key that we keep them there and we try and keep them energised to do that.
Ian, from your own insight into how businesses are performing across the county, where in the cycle do you think we are in relation to this recession?
I think, Karl, look, we're a long way down the road, and I think I alluded to it earlier on, where we've seen businesses that they've reduced their costs and there's nothing left to cut. So I suppose we've also seen where their income has dropped, their sales have dropped, but again that has now plateaued. So I think in my view, and it's only my view, that in most cases businesses have hit a plateau, and whether that's good or bad, whether it means that they're viable or not viable, at least things have stalled as regards a downward spiral. So what that allows, I suppose, a business to do is it's easier to budget going forward, or to do a business plan, because they know that a bottom isn't going to fall out of something again in 2 weeks' time or in a month's time. And that's, as I said, maybe what I was talking about earlier, where businesses can maybe now start to concentrate on above the line into sales and where new markets are, etc., to allow their business, if it's not viable, to become viable.
Well, Ian, it's been a very informative interview. Many thanks for coming in this morning, and I wish you continued success in your role at Bank of Ireland.
You're listening to South East Radio's Business Matters with Karl Fitzpatrick, in association with Wexford Insurances. Think Wexford Insurances for your business insurance.